Welcome to another edition of James Does a Deep Dive into the new product release at Blending Room. If you're new here, I do this on a weekly basis, stand in front of a camera and describe the coffee that I am releasing for my company Blending Room, which is a coffee roastery based in Hull, East Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. In these videos, I do a brief description of where the coffee has come from. We do a roast profile analysis. I taste the coffee and convey its flavor profile, and I'll give you some suggestions as to where I think this would be best brewed. Many of my coffees are sourced by Falcon Speciality, the coffee importers that I have been using for well over a decade now. I have a strong trust basis in the company to provide me with delicious and delightful coffees on a weekly basis, and specifically my coffee buyer Matt Sealby, who heads up the specialty division and does a lot of work inside of Brazil from where this coffee has come from. If you're interested to know a little bit more about Falcon Speciality, I have put a link to their website in the description below, from which you'll be able to find out a little bit more about their company, their buying methodologies, and more broadly, their ethos. With the intro done, and without further ado, let's get into the roast profiles. On the screen now, you will see the roast profile that I used for this coffee for this presentation. You'll note that the end temperature was 212.9 degrees Celsius. The total duration of the roast was 9 minutes and 10 seconds with a development time of 1 minute 26, which is 15.6% of the total roast time. As we move into spring here in the UK, I am attempting to roast the coffee a little faster than I was during the winter time, with also a shorter development time. I have noted over the past 2 weeks that on the cupping table, there has been a little bit more of a developed flavor profile in the cups. Now, I haven't done much different within the Loring roaster, but the core temperature of the raw coffee will be shifting into a warmer position. That then has, I'm assuming, allowed me to develop the coffee a little more. The roaster doesn't have to do so much heavy lifting in taking the core temperature up to a finished temperature, and if you follow those profiles that you may have executed during the winter time, in the spring or the summer, you will likely get more development in the cup. So a thing to note there is cup all of the coffees that you roast. Use that cupping information, analyze the data that you have, and be mindful that as the raw temperatures move through time, you may have to adjust your profiles. Yes, roasting systems such as the Loring are highly repeatable because they use air and they're not dragging in too much cool air from the environment or the inverse of that, warm air, but you do have to take stock of the raw coffee and its temperature. I'll add here as well that when I move to a new roastery sometime in the future, I am definitely going to have cold storage for my raw coffee and a staging room to bring that cool coffee into an environment 7 to 10 days prior to roasting. And the reason for this is to have a stable green temperature for the roasting environment to mitigate having to make seasonal changes to the profiles. So back to this one, you can see that I have used the pyramid heat approach. This is something that I'm really enjoying the result of. Now, I have to challenge my dogma and make sure that I don't just stick to this ad infinitum, but I'm getting some really good results from this methodology, and it's nice when you do work and you enjoy what you do. So I am sticking with this approach for this period of time. I'm only a year into roasting on this roaster, and maybe I will take some tuition. There are some courses that I can do that are specific to Loring, and if I learn some stuff from that, I'll be able to reapply that and readdress these roast profiles, having some new knowledge. You'll note that the profile has a nice curve shape. There are no peaks and troughs in that, and the rate of rise is an ever declining curve. There is a little bit of a hump that occurred between 180 and 185 degrees Celsius. And what happened here is that I was just taking a little bit too much gas into that phase. So in subsequent roasts, I will make sure that I taper that energy away should I want a smoother curve? Now, be mindful that not all curves are going to be absolutely straight, and nor do they require to be absolutely a straight line. This is a delightful coffee. It's just, however, I want to explore if I made an adjustment there, would that have improved the flavor? Who knows until you try. The really nice thing about this curve is this tracks very closely to how I roast one of our core products, Pantano, which is another coffee from Brazil. Different cultivars, but equally a natural process coffee. And it's lovely when you have some data based on core things that you do. When you come to these specials, it means then you've got a bit more confidence going into that first roast. So in general, I am happy with this profile. There's not a lot that I would like to change. So how does it taste? As with all of my assessments, I'm first going to take note of the aroma and pick up any of the overriding characters that I can smell in the cup, because those give you a strong indication as the flavours that you could expect in the cup thereafter. So I can smell nuts and chocolate, and there's a little bit of a soft sort of stone fruit character in there as well. And it's the stone fruit character that is the first thing that you pick up in the cup when you take your first sip. There's not a lot of acidity here. There is some, but it's not particularly prominent. And if I was to give it a character, I would say it's a plum-like acidity. After that, you then get a sticky fig character in the cup. Just think of those ripe figs when you bite into it and you get that sticky sweetness. That is what we've got going on here in the cup. Beyond that, the character then develops into hazelnut, and again, more of that sticky sweetness. There is a nice play here between chocolate that is coming in from the finish and those stone fruits, plums, figs, that type of thing. So talking about the finish, what I'm now getting is lots of milk chocolate and hazelnut. It's a very classic natural process coffee from Brazil on the finish. And I have to say that this is doing really well as a black filter coffee, which brings me into how would I brew it? I would have a strong bias to have this as a filter coffee. It is soft and it's round and there's texture. It's got the sweetness, acidity and finish to it. It's a really well balanced coffee, and a filter coffee allows that balance to come through. This, of course, would perform super well in a cafetiere. You'd get lots of that texture. Okay, you'll get rid of some of the top notes that you may be able to perceive with the filter coffee, but if you're really into texture-led drinks, cafetiere would be fantastic. I'd even hedge to say a hybridized brew such as a Clever Dripper would make this a really stunning coffee. Clever Drippers are so easy to use and they're great at being able to get wonderful balance between texture and sweetness and that clarity that the filter paper gives. Because we don't have a particularly prominent acidity in this, I would also hedge that this would work well as an espresso. Yes, you will get a light character. This has an Agtron Gourmet score of 91.4, which is extremely light in roast color. However, the acidity is balanced and therefore it should transfer into an espresso-based brew, especially if you wanted it like a cortado or a flat white or a piccolo, so something with a tiny little bit of milk and then a delicious espresso on top. If you are to choose milk, go with a Jersey cow, go with gold top. Please don't have semi-skimmed or stuff like that. That stuff isn't good for you. And on that revelation, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. This was That Coffee, and it is available to purchase online now. It will also be with me at Beverley Market. I'm there between 8 and 4 every single Saturday. And of course, we have an open door policy at the roastery. We're here between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday, where this coffee and many more are available. If you do pick up a bag, I hope you enjoy it. You have a great week ahead. Cheers.